Alrighty, I am pleased to be joined by a reoccurring guest, Kyle Hoffman from the Pickle Podcast. How's it going, Kyle?
It's going good, JJ, man. Good to see your face again. And glad we can talk about UFC. I was tired of the layoff here, so I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think July is the last time you came in or came on. So,
all right, it's been a while.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about UFC 270. Normally, we would start with the other fights before the main bout. Let's just start talking about the main bout right away. Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane, heavyweight, the heavyweight title. What do you think of this matchup overall?
I think overall it's one of those heavyweight matchups where you don't know what's going to happen. You could kind of expect it reminds me of like the Derek Lewis fight against Ngannou, where the first couple rounds were very, very slow. I think it's going to be a lot like that because Gane likes to stay. He doesn't like to stay stationary like Derek Lewis, but he likes to keep his distance. And I think that we might hear some boos in the first round, but overall, I think it's going to be a great fight when it comes down to it.
Normally, these bouts end up with either a knockout or a submission. Do you think this fight goes the distance, or do you think it ends up in a knockout?
I would bet against it not going the distance. Even though I know Cyril Gane is not the strongest of finishers, it took him a while to finish Derek Lewis even. But I don't see it ending before 3 rounds. I think it's definitely going to go over 3 rounds. It could possibly end in the 4th round, but it'd be it'd be very rare for this fight to go the distance considering Ngannou's power and Gane's ability to break opponents down during the first 3 rounds. So if you're a betting person, you should bet this fight to end before the 5th round.
Do you think there's a chance that Gane can get the upset here?
I do think there's a chance Gane can get the upset. I think a lot of people are betting for Gane to win this fight, and I can see why they think that. Gane, like I said, controls distance very well. He's very precautious, and he's going to come out being careful against Ngannou. I heard some of his coaches talking about he wants to stay out of reach for this fight, and that's the huge problem with Ngannou. Like you saw in the Stipe fight, his ability to cover distance in a short amount of time is incredible. The way that he came in on Stipe with that, I believe it was a left hook out of nowhere. So, even though Gane can control distance, I definitely think Ngannou has the power to knock him out. However, if anybody's going to last that long against Ngannou, it's going to be Cyril Gane, which is why I said in the beginning, it's going to get very exciting in the later rounds of this fight.
And I think Ngannou is going to end up winning this, but the future for Ngannou, I think, is kind of a big mystery as well. You said before we started interviewing, after this fight, his contract is up. Do you think he re-signs with the UFC, or what do you think his future altogether holds?
Well, I think that's some of the excitement and also worry around Ngannou is the fact that before this fight, he was going off to film cameos in Hollywood films, and he's talking about wanting to fight Tyson Fury. And this is also the last fight on his contract. So it's one of those red flags that you see with heavyweight champions where they aren't as focused as you would like to see them. But in this case, and I will explain later on, JJ, that I think Ngannou will still come out on top, even though he appears to not be as focused. I think he appears more relaxed than anything. I think people mistake that lack of focus. I think that he's more relaxed and focused than anything. It looks to people like he's going to, drop this fight because, a lot of people are saying that he's not as focused. Gane is very much more focused, and Ngannou seems overconfident. But I don't think it's overconfidence at all. I think Ngannou really is confident that he's going to win this fight, especially since they've sparred together before.
Yeah, and especially after Ngannou's last fight against Stipe Miocic, he just dominated him, and I guess that's been close to a year now. But still, with the way he fought, it was unbelievable. And of course, I still really hope that he ends up fighting John Jones. But as you mentioned before we started recording, you don't think John Jones is coming back until he can actually stay clean for a whole year. Let's continue with that topic. When do you think John Jones actually returns back to the octagon?
I think it's going to take the right situation to get John Jones back in the octagon. There has to be something that happens within the UFC where, there has to be something that entices Dana White as well. It has to entice both parties in that case because John Jones isn't just going to take any fight. So I think that if there is a weakness in the heavyweight division, let's say Cyril Gane wins this fight and then loses his next one, we could very well see John Jones against either of these guys.
Yeah, I'd like to see John Jones again fight, but I really want the Francis Ngannou versus John Jones. That's definitely a fight that I would like to see.
Absolutely.
Let's start off with the co-main bout between Davison Figuereto versus Brandon Moreno. That's the third time they fought. Last time they fought, of course, Moreno got the upset. I mean, who do you like in this fight overall?
I like Moreno in the fight overall. I think he's going to get it done against Figuereto. I do know that Figuereto does have an 85% finishing rate, and that 15% that he doesn't finish his opponent, his fights against Brandon Moreno bring that average down. So you're looking at someone who has the ability to finish opponents early and often in Figuereto. However, I think Brandon Moreno's chin in this fight is going to win him the fight. I think Figuereto is going to actually piece him up a lot better than he did the last fight. I think he may even try to grapple because he's been training with Henry Cejudo. So who knows what we're going to see out of Figuereto in this fight. All I know is we're going to see a better performance than we did last time. But I do think Moreno tops out in all categories against Moreno tops out in all categories against Figuereto, especially confidence, because I saw a little bit of lack of confidence from Figuereto, especially since he got chinned up in his last fight.
And I'm assuming you think this fight's going to end either in a knockout or submission, but do you think this fight actually goes the distance?
That's a tough one. I think Brandon Moreno gets it done. I think he takes the back of Figuereto in the fourth round and gets it done from shots from behind. I don't think it goes the distance. However, it very well could if Figuereto has a good showing.
And I forgot to mention this with Ngannou and the Gane fight, but who do you think would be whoever wins this fight in between Moreno and Figuereto? What's next for them? Who would be their next matchup?
I don't think that I have a good idea of who you would put against Moreno if he won again, because Figueredo's been the top contender for so long. I mean, this is their third fight together. So, it's hard telling who is going to be next for Brandon Moreno. I'd really have to look at the rankings on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting too with that fight, and I'm ready to see that one as well. Let's talk about the other fights in the card. I think that's it's not technically the tri-main event, but what about the other fights? What other fight really excites you on this main card here?
Well, the Nurmagomedov fight. Hopefully, if it's still on. I know we had two others canceled this week. The Topuria fight was canceled, and the Rodolfo Vieira fight was canceled, which I was super excited for. But I'm excited to see the Nurmagomedov fight because I think we're going to see another person out of Kazakhstan take another win in that division, and it's almost getting convoluted with these fighters. But it's exciting to see these guys because they're so unique, and I'm excited to see what he could do.
Yeah, and this one, these fights look a little interesting. And as you said, there's already been a few that's canceled that always wrecks the, card or whatever. But do you think this is one of the best cards in a long time, is what they're saying right now?
I don't think it's one of the best cards of all time. I think it's one of the best main events and co-main events of the beginning of the year. I definitely we have a lot of fights to go, but I'd say in the last maybe 5 or 6 UFC events, I think this is the most exciting duo of main event and co-main event, because you have former champions facing former champions, and Cyril Gane is looking for that win as well and looking to sink his teeth into that division as well. So, we have a lot of talented fighters within the last 2 fights. I mean, these guys are just top of the line fighters. So I'm super excited.
All right, let's take a break from this card and let's kind of talk about some other matchups. Now, Charles Oliveira is now the lightweight champion. He goes out and gets the upset on Dustin Poirier. And of course, we all know Conor McGregor when he gets back to being able to fight, he wants to fight Oliveira, but I think it's a little too soon for him. And I think Justin Gaethje deserves that next bout. I think he deserves another chance at the title. What do you think of Justin Gaethje's actual chances of fighting Oliveira for the title?
If you're talking about Dana White, if he had the chance to give Conor McGregor or Justin Gaethje the fight, he would give Conor McGregor the fight. He's famous for not giving Justin Gaethje the fights when he needs to give him the fights, and I do agree that Justin Gaethje does deserve it. However, with that division, now that, Chandler's been defeated, and, I think Gaethje is probably the top contender to fight Oliveira, to be honest, even though it may not be Dana White's first choice.
Yeah. And I think when McGregor comes back, I think he should fight someone not like Charles Oliveira, but maybe like a Michael Chandler. I know Chandler has mentioned that he wants to fight McGregor. And I think he was when his first time fighting in the actual UFC after coming out, after signing with the UFC. But I think, again, I think it's just too early for McGregor to fight Oliveira. The last two fights against Poirier, he didn't look like the same kind of McGregor. So I just think Justin Gaethje, who's been kind of, as you mentioned, Dana White kind of avoids him at times. And I think he deserves the next shot. What about Dustin Poirier? Who do you think he ends up fighting next? I mean, maybe Makhachev, maybe. That might be a little too soon, but what do you think about Poirier?
I honestly think that's probably the next fight, because he's faced Khabib before, and I think this could be a way for Dustin Poirier to somehow get redemption, considering that Makhachev is looked at as the next Khabib in a lot of opinions. Mm-hmm. So I think that might make good sense, and it might make good sense for Dustin Poirier kind of bringing closure to that loss to Nurmagomedov. Like I said, if he can beat Makhachev, that would absolutely seal his legacy even more than it already has.
Yeah. And I am still a little surprised that Charles Oliveira was able to get the win, because I thought Dustin Poirier was the best fighter in the division, which the lightweight, of course, is one of the most exciting divisions. But let's go to the women's side. Of course, Juliana Pena does the unthinkable last month, I believe, and knocks out defeats Amanda Nunes. Do you think there's a chance of a rematch between the two?
Oh, absolutely. That's going to be the number one rematch, the number one females MMA rematch right there. The reason being is that, after watching the fight the first time, I had a lot of question marks about how that fight ended. Did Nunes give up? What happened? A lot of people were saying that some weird stuff happened at the end of the fight. However, I had a chance to watch it again, and Juliana Pena really broke down Amanda Nunes during the course of that fight. And her level of striking during that fight, even though it looked sloppy, it was very efficient. So I've never seen anyone be able to strike with Nunes like she did. And I don't think it was a lack of training on Nunes's part. I think that Juliana Pena came out with a really strong game plan, and I think that she really deserves that win. To be honest, I've watched the fight a number of times, and I think that obviously she didn't get the choke at the end. I think Amanda Nunes gave up, and I think she gave up because she pressured her so much during that fight that she had no answer. Amazing.
Yeah, what I took away from the fight was the first round, I think, was pretty much dominated by Nunes. But after, I think, the second round, you could tell how tired Nunes got very quickly. And I didn't think it was going to actually happen, but I can't wait to see that rematch. When do you think they could actually fight again?
Well, I was just gonna say, JJ, it's almost like she put a Colby Covington-like performance on Amanda Nunes. I mean, with the volume and the striking, it was amazing. Yeah, sorry, I got off topic there, but yeah, what was the question? Anytime Colby Covington comes up, I lose my track of thought. Sorry.
You're good. When do you think they can the two will actually fight again? Do you think this year, or maybe next year, or when do you think they'll actually fight again if it happens?
I think it'll be this year, but it'll probably be at the end of the year. I think Amanda Nunes is going to take a vacation, and I honestly think that she wanted a vacation before this fight happened, which is why at the end of the fight, I think she was happy because she's like, "Oh, I get a break now. I don't have to be champion anymore." But I think that hunger is going to come back, and I think she's going to get tired of not being champion again. And I think we're going to see the same Amanda Nunes come back. I think it's going to be an even better fight.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm still surprised at times when because I didn't think Nunes was going to get beat. I thought she was unbeatable, but goes to show you that I guess everybody is beatable at one time. I think the UFC 271 has already been scheduled. Israel Adesanya is going to fight again. Can you talk about anything, or do you have like a preview or anything to that card? Because I know it's a little early, but what do you think about that overall?
Good question. It's versus Whitaker, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
That is going to be an insane fight. Robert Whitaker needs to get redemption against Israel Adesanya, and I see a lot better fight happening this time, especially since Adesanya has had a little bit of setback as far as the way he's fought the last couple times. So it's going to be a great equalizer. I think it'll be an even better fight than last time.
Yeah, they haven't fought since they fought again last May, wasn't it? UFC, was it 261, I believe it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, Adesanya won that matchup. But yeah, it's like I said, Adesanya hasn't been in the octagon in a little bit now, so he's kind of taking a vacation himself. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting matchup as well. Let's get back to the main card of UFC 270. Let's continue with the Ngannou and Gane talk. If Ngannou somehow comes away with the win, who would be his next matchup?
I think you could probably throw Rosenstrike at him. You know, he's high enough in the rankings. I think, you know, you probably need to give Rosenstrike another chance. It depends on how he beats Ngannou if he does win. If he knocks Ngannou out, it's hard telling.
Yeah. What about a guy like Stipe Miocic? It's been a while since he's fought last, but when do you think he'll actually fight again? And do you think he'll get a chance at the title down the road?
Well, you know, I was just thinking about Stipe Miocic fighting Cyril Gane, and I just can't envision it right now. I'm not sure why. I can't put my finger on it, but I just can't envision that fight right now. You know, especially since Dana White has always not been a huge fan of Stipe Miocic, and coming off a loss like that, you know, I think it's fair play to say that we'll see Stipe again soon. But I think that Jairzinho Rozenstruik, losing to Curtis Blades, you know, I think that they could put him against Derek Lewis, and the winner of that could fight Gane. But other than that, man, it's Cyril Gane and Ngannou at the top. It really is. Maybe Tom Aspinall. Who knows? You know?
Yeah. Like I said, it's been a while since Miocic has fought. I think his last fight came against Ngannou right last March. So it's been a long time since he's fought. Derek
Lewis just beat Chris Dawkins too, so he's got to win in his last fight.
Yeah, and I believe Gane fought Lewis last time, right? Or when's the last time Lewis fought? It was against Gane, right? Or
it was against Gane. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he got knocked out, correct?
Yep, and Blades actually won against Rozenstruik. Sorry, Blades won against Rozenstruik. But that's the thing. Do you really see Curtis Blades fighting Cyril Gane?
I think that might be too early for him to get a title fight if Gane would come away with the win, which I don't think he's going to upset Ngannou, but
that's why I'm left with Rozenstruik. You know, that's the only thing I can see right now, unless we see Johnny Bones Jones come back, JJ.
Yeah, which would be the dream matchup, right? Where a dream
exactly.
Fight.
Maybe that's the last thing they have. Maybe that's the last desperation shot for Dana White for the heavyweight division.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that it's better for Dana White if Francis Ngannou wins the title, because you can just throw anyone at him like a lion. You know, it's with Gane, it's almost, I think anybody other than Ngannou right now is losing to Gane. So if Gane wins, we're gonna have trouble in the heavyweight division, because the only people that you're gonna throw at him that you are confident is going to be a competitive fight is against Ngannou. That's why I said Rozenstruik, very similar to Derek Lewis. You know what I'm saying? That's the only other one I can see.
Yeah. And if Ngannou, say he wins this fight and he doesn't re-sign with the UFC, and you said before we started interviewing he wanted to fight Tyson Fury again, could you see that fight actually happening and maybe Ngannou gets the win? I don't think he'd beat Tyson Fury, but
I think he's going to fight Tyson Fury. I really do. I think that he wants to be I think that he wants to be McGregor. I think even though Ngannou is a little soft spoken, I think he has the same type of superstar mentality, and I think that he's going to box Tyson Fury, and I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's going to box Tyson Fury.
Wow, that would be an epic matchup as well. Another thing that happened recently, and this has been a little bit now, but I don't know if you heard about this, but Jake Paul said he wants to go into the UFC, or there's a chance of him maybe fighting Jorge Masvidal. Do you think that actually happens? If it does happen, he's going to get knocked out right away. But do you actually see Jake Paul signing with the UFC for 1 or 2 fights?
No, I've saw some of Jake Paul's leg kicks, the other day, and I was not impressed. I can see maybe a bare knuckle match between the two, or possibly a MMA fight with no kicks. That's the only two things I can see.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually a possibility when they were talking about it, was an MMA fight with no kicks, just stand up and wrestling.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Jake Paul, who do you think his next matchup is? Do you think he's going to end up fighting Tommy Fury finally? Or, I mean, he's been pretty quiet lately, so I'm not exactly sure who his next matchup would be.
I mean, it'd be fun if he fought Henry Cejudo.
I honestly didn't think about that one.
Think about it. I mean, I thought about it the other day. Henry Cejudo is still retired. He could absolutely fight. You know, there's a couple other guys out there that are retired UFC fighters that could fight Paul. I don't think you're going to see a legitimate boxer again. You'll probably see a celebrity. You know, the enigma of Jake Paul, great boxer. If you put him in there with a real contender, it's not going to end the way that it normally does. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I was looking forward to actually him seeing fight Tommy Fury, but of course it didn't work out. And then of course, you know, Woodley had a chance, but in that 6th round because I think it was pretty much even that last time they fought. And I thought there was a great chance of Woodley. If they went the distance, there was a great chance the judges would score a win for Woodley, but he kind of got off track. And I think you know, of course he basically let Paul get that last punch in, but, you know, what did you think of that fight back? It's been over a month now, but what did you think about the fight overall?
It just amazes me that God, I almost lost my train of thought thinking about it. It amazes me. It amazes me that Tyron Woodley fought Wonderboy Thompson 3 times competitively and then got knocked out by Jake Paul. That still blows my mind, JJ.
Yeah.
That is insane.
I mean, Woodley looked pretty decent the first time they fought. And that second time he actually had a chance to win. Of course, he accidentally, it was in the 2nd or 3rd round, he pinned Jake Paul, which was interesting to see. I laughed, to be honest with you there, but I don't know. It just seemed like he was caught off guard. And you don't think the fight is actually rigged with Jake Paul, do you?
No, I don't think it's rigged. I think there is something that has to do with Jake Paul not getting knocked out. Because with Triller, they're an entertainment company, and there's been a lot of speculation about whether, you know, the fighters are supposed to knock out Jake Paul if they win. But again, that doesn't make much sense to me. Knowing a little bit about boxing, I'm not sure how that would be a thing. So, no, I think it's 100% legit.
Well, I think Jake Paul he's with Showtime now, so I don't think he has anything with
Triller anymore.
With Triller, yeah. It's kind of weird how he can do that. But I mean, if he actually fought he has not fought a real boxer yet. And I would really like to see what he does with an actual boxer. And I think Tommy Fury would have been a perfect matchup, but it just didn't work out. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens if it actually happens. And, you know, Jake Paul still hasn't scheduled a fight with anybody yet. And I think he's going to be scheduling a fight here soon because it's been over a month now, the last time he fought. So, yeah,
you know, he could fight. I'm not sure about Ryan Garcia. If you know about Ryan Garcia, he's an up and coming fighter. He's probably Jake Paul's age or a little younger, but he's he could possibly fight Jake Paul. But the only thing is that he's kind of making his own run right now, so it's a possibility. But Ryan Garcia might be someone to look at since he's so young and early in his career. It might be fun for him to fight Jake Paul, but then again, I don't know if his managers would let him.
Yeah,
and they know each other as well, so they could possibly get together on a deal or something. So watch for Ryan Garcia to be someone they talk about.
Alrighty. Again, before we end the interview, and again, thanks for coming on, Kyle. Do you want to add anything else before we officially end the interview?
Put your money on Ngannou.
All right. Again, don't forget, guys, the Pickle Podcast, put the link down in the description below. And again, thanks for coming on, Kyle, and have a wonderful night and enjoy the fights.
You too as well. Have a great one.